Razor Blade Romance was released in the month of January 2000, quickly reaching double platinum and pushing the band's sales to over 1 million copies worldwide. The long-awaited album proved to be just the type of follow-up the band needed, confirming a musical progression and growing confidence.
So when Razor Blade Romance album hit #1 and Join Me in Death, the single from the album, was #1 at the same time in the charts in Germany. Like, BMG had a huge party, champagne and blah blah blah, and I was ringing up the band when the charts came through, saying like, wow, we're double #1. No fucking Finnish band has ever reached this before. This is like history now, you know. And the guys were like, nah. And I went, why are you so miserable? You know, we're just sitting here at the bar counting our pennies, you know. We can't even make it to one beer.
I mean, Razor Blade Romance, the album, was really a very, very good album. There wasn't a duff song on it.
But then, of course, we did the tour. We had like 8,000 people or so in venues in Germany. And the band got really scared. They got really frightened. And it was like, sometimes like Bille was on stage and he didn't know how to respond to the huge audience, just like screaming like, Bille, like hysterical, you know. So he turned his back to them and like showing them the butt. And I was like, fuck.
With over 1 million record sales worldwide, it was not hard to notice the impact him were making on the goth scene in the UK.
What impact did they make when they first hit the UK? Quite impressive, I think. It was a slow build-up, but then suddenly accelerated at a massive rate. Became very, very popular over a very short period of time. But not just with young goth fans, they also started to appeal to mainstream rock fans, people who were probably even in their 40s and 50s, liked sort of the old bands like Iron Maiden and Def Leppard, but suddenly we got this new band with a good commercial edge about them, which appealed across, you know, all the subgenres. The goth scene at the time, pretty quiet, to be perfectly honest. Bands, you know, people were still into bands like the Old Mission and Sisters of Mercy, but there was nothing really new on the scene coming along. There's a lot of fringe scenes in places like Germany and the Scandinavian market, but none of them have really hit the UK.
Probably 2000, I think it was, BMG Records in the UK decided finally that they were going to release Razor Blade Romance as an album over here. And they mounted this kind of big advertising campaign. There were ads going into all the major music papers and all that kind of stuff. And they did an album launch party. And me being me, in those days, I didn't have quite so many contacts as I had now. And I managed to blag the album launch party. I snuck in, managed to get there. And they were putting out these CDs of Razor Blade Romance, and a lot of the tracks on Razor Blade Romance were actually on the original 666 love songs, but they were kind of redone, polished up a little bit, made more friendly for a bigger European audience. And I heard it and I said, yeah, I really like this band and I think they're going to be really big.
I first heard him around about 2001. I was working in a part of the industry and we started to get a lot of interest from young rock fans who were telling us about this new band in Finland. And I checked them out, and it was really something very different. It was a sort of commercial, sort of gothy feel to the band. Like, you know, there was nothing else like it around at that time, particularly in the UK and probably in Europe.
And I remember writing the first review for them, which was in Meltdown magazine back in the summer of 2000. And my closing sentence was, and I'd be really surprised if this band aren't absolutely massive. But of course, in hindsight, we know it took them a few more years to actually reach that level of success in the UK.
Round about that time in the UK, I mean, the market was basically very bland. I mean, it's always the case in this industry. One particular band will come along and then record companies tend to want to try and sign similar bands. And if you go back to sort of 91, 92, Nirvana started grunge, and then suddenly we had Pearl Jam, we had Alice in Chains, we had various others. So, and we were going through that sort of period when there was nothing really fresh coming out.
I basically was writing articles about them for Meltdown. At that time I was doing a bit of stuff for Metal Hammer as well. I was trying to push for, you know, yeah, please can I do an article on this band. At that stage they weren't actually interested. Of course now you can't open Metal Hammer magazine without seeing pictures of Vila all over the place, and he's just literally won an award, the Metal Hammer Golden Gods Award for Icon of the Year.
HIM have had their fair share of keyboardists. The first was Anto Melas-Niemi, who joined the band in 1997 and left in 1998, citing personality clashes for his departure. Jaska Salminen replaced him, but left almost immediately to concentrate on other things. Jan Johannes Pertinen, aka Burton, was born into a house of artistic parents and proved to be just what the band were looking for. With continued album success, HIM began their European tour. Playing to packed venues of up to 10,000 fans, HIM rightfully took their place as one of Finland's most popular exports. Like most young rock bands, HIM found life on the road a bit tedious and a great opportunity for mischief and mayhem. So what's it like on tour?
To be on tour with these fucking crazy motherfuckers, sorry for speaking like that. It's funny. In the tour bus, it's always two sections, you know. There is the playground and there's the drinking ground. So the playground, usually Gas, our drummer, is sitting there with Burton most of the time, playing these football games, you know. And if not this combination, it's Miget, the bass player, and Burton playing chess. Ville usually sleeps in the tour bus, or then when he's up in the drinking ground, you know, like with Linde, our guitar player, our dearest.
In HIM, the great thing is they really seem to be what they are. They're not trying to be these rock stars. And when you look at Ville Valo on stage, you know, he's not jumping around like crazy or anything like that. He's, you know, this calm guy who smokes and have his bottle, and you know, it seems like he's doing what's the most comfortable for him. He's not trying to you know, think of him as some kind of guy who should, you know, jump around in a stage because some people are doing it.
The most memorable performance for HIM was probably a secret gig that they actually played. They played down at the Underworld in Camden, which